Okay, so we're back. Again, this is Lauren Schaller, and this is part two. In part one, I showed you basically my answers to parts one and two, my online learning, theories based on the research that we did and the social presence model and satisfying social and emotional needs. And now we are on, I can zero in here and moving on to the third part. How has this class informed my current work? So I think first of all, the flex model of blended learning was quite the I was accidentally moved something was quite the insight for me. Because I realized that I had done this previously in my class, and the mass amount of relief that I felt moving away from teacher-centered learning, and that I could do this. And I think the flex model would meet so many of my students' needs. It might be a little hard to do completely, as was shown in the reading and in this video, which really got me in the Graham chapter, Graham et al. 2019, and this is what got me to really understand how it would look in the classroom. And it just so happened that the example classroom was a science one, and it was just beautiful to see. So I'm definitely trying to incorporate this into my class in the future, or a partial flex model where I have maybe a little more collaboration, a little more focused class-wide work for maybe 1 or 2 days a week, and then do some flex learning. I don't know if this is going to work for all my classes, and we're talking about radically changing at my school. We are talking about possibly radically changing our scheduling next year, which could really change how my classroom looks in general. So it's definitely something I'm really thinking of incorporating, which would be so much easier to differentiate instruction, to meet different needs. It's more learner centered, and it would just breathe so much life into the classroom. So I'm definitely thinking of doing that. The web accessibility guidelines in general, this whole guide here in the handbook that we were provided was such an eye-opener. I know I haven't exactly followed all those guidelines in this here poster, which was a little tough. I think that's why the presentation is important, but all of the very specific details were absolutely necessary. How to, headings, images, captions, just so many different things that we got from this. I thought that's definitely something I'm going to be using. Another big one, the capstone experience that was mentioned in the most recent reading that we had in the Kozlowski and Carver chapter. And this is something I actually had in the back of my mind when I very first started teaching a few years ago. And it was satisfying to see it reiterated and being thought of as a good practice. So it made me feel that I can actually do this. So something that I do with my environmental students is we have a little trail at our school that was actually built by the small engine program of study, and sometimes is worked on by our horticulture program. And so these are some of you can't see their faces, but these are some of my students studying, identifying species. This is actually a creek. It's hard to tell. And I was thinking that since my 9th grade science class focuses the whole second half of the year on ecology, what a great way to sum up all of their learnings about population density and biodiversity and ecological relationships and food chains. What if there's a way to make it culminate with the capstone experience, and we go outside and they collect data and analyze that data? And I think that would be such a great way to end the year and to take advantage of the fact that my school has that space. And then I have this crazy idea in the back of my mind on using the Martian in my environmental science class, and which is kind of odd, but what better way to understand the environment and environmental science than to study a place that we want to go but don't actually have an environment we could use? How would we build it? So I thought that would be kind of an interesting way to capstone a year of studying waste and mining and energy and agriculture and biodiversity on planet Earth. How would we incorporate those things, or try to keep some of those negative things from happening in an artificially created environment? And it would be cool to partner up with the English department. And if the kids read the book, might have to be an adapted version of the book, because I know that there are swear words and such in it. But anyway, just an idea I had, and it was satisfying to read about that in one of our readings. Also, getting back to this light bulb idea, this is from one of the chapters we read by Graham et al. About integrating activities that are done online with the activities that are done in person. And again, this is something that about, what is the role of the synchronous learning? What is the role of the asynchronous learning? And weaving them together and fully integrating them strongly so that there is nothing that's disconnected. And so that's something that I would say definitely is informing my current work. Then, last but not least, the ahas and questions that I have. And you'll see that the point that I was just mentioning, I included that in my ahas as well. And actually, what I did was, my ahas are actually also questions as well. So the ahas that I think also lead to more questions, I put a question mark with, and I actually forgot to do that for this arrow here. I was going to put a question mark there too, because I also have questions as to the best way to do this. Again, integrating better the synchronous and asynchronous learning, and connecting everything that the students do so that each side is being reinforced what they're doing at home versus what they're doing in the classroom. Now, the only issue I have with this are the absences and students not doing work, which is a huge problem right now. So what if I have students doing something online at home and it's supposed to then be afterwards reinforced when they come back to the classroom once a week, which is what's happening right now. And the issue with that is that a good portion of the students are not doing that work at home. So you have a situation where, well, let's reinforce what you learned. Well, we didn't learn that because, a bunch of the kids didn't do it. So trying to figure that out, one way is to maybe flip it, and the online stuff at home is after it's done in person, then it's reinforced at home. And then if they're not there for the in-person, they just get the absent work, which they would have to make up at home anyway. So navigating that leads to a lot of questions. Now, what are some of the other things that I'm wondering about? And this sounds really silly, but one of my ahas is they should enjoy the class. Now, this is something I've always strived for, but it's one thing to have it be a fleeting moment in your mind and to read it officially and be like, they should really be enjoying this, and that's how you can bring all this together. So it's not like this hasn't occurred to me or that I don't try to make the class enjoyable, because I often very much do this. But it was kind of an aha moment to have it be official. So moving on to the next one here, which I read about in the most recent reading in the Kozlowski and Carver, providing authentic real-life experiences and connections. We read about this somewhere else as well. And I've heard about this and always believed that classes should be like this. And but making it happen in these suggested ways, like getting guest speakers and getting virtual field trips, is just kind of intimidating right now. Honestly, I could really use more information on how to make virtual field trips happen. I still am trying to wrap my head around the concept and how to really make this work effectively, so I put a question mark there. Another aha, this was a really big one for me, using problem-based learning as the key to putting together an online class and satisfying a lot of the other things that I've mentioned earlier in this video and the other video, and how the problem-based learning could be the key to doing this. And I've been looking at problem-based learning and making it something that could be a one stone killing two birds kind of effect was pretty intriguing to me. I wanted to shout out to Olivia Benbow, who did back in Module 4 in the discussion board, she mentioned Classcraft. And I think I should have capitalized that second C there, but accidentally. And I was really taken aback by that. I really like gaming. I'm not a video game person, but I do like a lot of gaming kind of stuff and that sort of creativity. So I was really intrigued that could be used as an management tool for an online class. And I'm not sure, though, how well it would work in my school, so I put a question mark there. Is it something that I could do with my high school students well? I know a bunch of them play video games, but I don't know how well it would actually work in practice as a classroom tool, so I question that. Another aha, online teaching can include adaptive learning technology. And that blew my mind when I first read and found out what it was, which I did not know about before this class, was this adaptive learning technology, that you could basically have the technology that the students are using do some of the work for you. And I would love to learn more about that and what I could do. I've only seen one so far, and I mentioned it before. I think it was Quizzes, and but it looks like you had to upgrade more to use it. So I definitely want to learn more about specific examples of that and how I could actually be using it. And last but not least, I know I mentioned it before, but the flex model of blended learning, I would call that an aha as well, something I definitely want to use. I think someday this is definitely my dream classroom, and at least maybe have part of it still be a little, like, not completely flex, but I feel that if I can pull this off, definitely for my upperclassmen classes. I'm not sure about the freshmen, because that curriculum is so tight. But I have a question mark there too. How could I use it successfully? I know it's very front-loaded, but with preparation, but I would like to use it. So there you have it. Thank you for hanging in there and watching this whole thing, both videos. So here ends part 2.